Gather round, my people, gather round. Come closer, I beg you, because the story I want to tell you today is not the type you hear with half ear. No. This is the kind of story that will make you lean forward, that will make you forget the soup on the fire, that will make you call your neighbor to come and listen. It is a story about money, about mystery, about a young man who became the most talked about person in Umuaka village. And my people, when I say talked about, I mean from the moment the cock crowed in the morning until the night guard started their patrol. This boy's name was in every mouth like chewing stick. Sit down well, adjust yourselves, because what happened in Umuaka village that year? Hey, even now as I speak, people are still scratching their heads trying to understand it. Listen, listen. In Umuaka village, there lived a young man called Obiora. 25 years old, and according to the village people, he should have arrived by now. But poverty had other plans. Now, before the money came, Obiora was the type of person that poverty had used as its personal example. If hunger was teaching a class, Obiora would be the diagram on the blackboard. His trouser had seen better days. In fact, that trouser had seen better years, better decades safe. The knees were so worn out that the fabric was just managing, begging God for mercy. His slippers, those slippers were held together by hope and prayer. The left one was always trying to escape from his foot, and the right one had a crack so wide you could see his toes winking at you as he walked. Obiora lived with his mother, Mama Obiora, a woman whose tongue was sharper than a new razor blade and whose voice could wake the dead if she was vexed. She sold akara and pap in front of their compound every morning, and that small money was what they used to survive. Some days the sales were good, some days the sales were bad, but every day Mama Obiora's complaints were excellent. "Obiora," she would shout from the kitchen at 5 a.m. "You are there sleeping like a person who has two heads. Get up and go and find work. Do you want to eat air for breakfast?" And Obiora, poor Obiora, would drag himself up from his thin mattress, wash his face with cold water, and go out into the village to look for any kind of work. Sometimes he would help people carry loads from the motor park. Sometimes he would wash cars. Sometimes he would help the farmer down the road dig yam. Any work at all, as long as it would put even 50 naira in his pocket. The village people knew Obiora as that boy who is trying. Not succeeding, just trying. The type of person you see and you say, "Hey, yeah, poor boy," before you continue walking. But my people, something happened. Something that changed everything. It started on a Tuesday morning. A morning like any other morning. The sun rose, the chickens started making noise, Mama Nkechi opened her provision shop, and the village began its usual activities. But on this particular Tuesday, Obiora woke up, bathed, wore his usual struggling trouser and his tired shirt, and did something he had never done before. He picked up a small black nylon bag, the type they give you in the chemist when you buy medicine, and he announced to his mother, "Mama, I am going to work." Mama Obiora looked up from the akara she was frying. "Work? Which work? Who gave you work?" "I have found something," Obiora said. "I will be back in the evening." And before his mother could ask more questions, he was gone. Now, normally, this would not be news. People go to work every day, is it not so? But this is where the story starts to get interesting, my people. Pay attention now. Obiora left that morning at 7 a.m. with his small black nylon bag empty, completely empty, as light as air. His neighbor, Chinedu, the tailor, saw him leaving and greeted him. "Obiora, where are you going?" "Walk," Obiora replied simply and kept walking.
Chinedu watched him go and thought nothing of it. After all, Obiora was always looking for work here and there. But when 6 p.m. reached that evening, when the sun was going down and the village was preparing for night, Obiora returned. And my people, it was the way he returned that made Chinedu's eyes nearly fall out of his head.
Obiora was walking differently. Not the usual tired walk of someone who had carried load all day. No, he was walking like someone who had good news in his pocket. And that same black nylon bag that was flat and empty in the morning was now full. Full like Christmas rice, bulging like a woman in her 9th month. Chinedu was sitting outside his shop. And when Obiora passed and greeted him, Chinedu just opened his mouth. He didn't even answer the greeting properly. He was just looking at that bag, wondering what kind of work fills a bag like that. That night, Obiora gave his mother money for soup. Real money, not 50 naira or 100 naira. He gave her 2,000 naira, crisp notes, smelling like bank. Mama Obiora collected the money slowly, turning it over in her hand like it might disappear. Obiora, what did you do today? Obiora told her, I told you, Mama, I went to work. Yes, but what work? What kind of work gives you this kind of money in one day? Obiora smiled, a small, quiet smile. Mama, just take the money, make your soup. I will continue going every day. And my people, that is exactly what he did. Every single morning, like clockwork, Obiora would wake up, bathe, pick up his black nylon bag, empty, always empty, and leave the compound. And every single evening, he would return with that same bag full. Full of what? Nobody knew. But whatever it was giving him money. After 1 week, Maha Obiora was cooking soup with meat. Real meat, not the one you have to search for with a flashlight. After 2 weeks, Obiora bought a new pair of shoes. Not slippers or shoes, the type with laces. After 3 weeks, he bought a new phone. The kind with a camera that doesn't make you look like a ghost. And the village people, my people, that is when the wahala started. You see, in an African village, when your situation suddenly changes, it is not your business alone. It becomes everybody's business. People will gather under the mango tree and discuss your life like it is a Nollywood movie. And that is exactly what started happening to Obiora. Mama Nkechi, the provision seller, was the first to bring it up. One afternoon, when the sun was hot and people were gathered under the big tree near the market square, she cleared her throat and said, "This Obiora matter. Am I the only one who has noticed?" "Notice what?" asked Baba Mecca, the retired teacher who always had an opinion about everything. "The boy," Mama Nkechi said, looking around to make sure everyone was paying attention. "Every day, he leaves his house with an empty bag. Every day, he comes back with a full bag. And money is just flowing from his pocket like tap water. What kind of work is this?" Silence fell on the gathering like a heavy blanket. Chinedu the tailor nodded slowly. "In fact, she is right too. I have been watching him since the beginning. That boy doesn't go to any office. He doesn't go to any shop. He just leaves and comes back with money." "Maybe he's doing Yahoo," suggested Emeka Jr., Baba Emeka's son, who thought he knew everything about internet fraud. "Yahoo with which laptop?" Mama Nkechi snapped. "The boy doesn't even have a computer, and Yahoo boys don't carry nylon bags around like that."
"Then what is he doing?" someone asked from the back of the crowd. And that, my people, was the question that began to scatter the peace of Umuaka village. Now, in every village, there are people who have nothing better to do than to monitor other people's lives like CCTV camera. Umuaka was blessed with many such people, and all of them turned their attention to Obiora like hungry lion watching antelope. Auntie Ngozi, the woman who knew everybody's business before they knew it themselves, took it upon herself to investigate. She lived 3 compounds away from Obiora, but that didn't stop her. Every morning, she would position herself by her window with a cup of tea, pretending to be relaxing, but her eyes were following Obiora like military drone. She noticed that every morning Obiora would leave through the main road, walk past the church, and then disappear. She never saw which direction he went after that. "This boy is into something mysterious," she told her friend Mama Ejima one evening. "I'm telling you, no normal walk makes you disappear like that." Mama Ejima, who had twin daughters and thought she knew everything about everything, nodded seriously. "You know what I think? I think he is doing rituals." "Rituals?" Auntie Ngozi's eyes widened. "Yes, now, think about it. Where else does money come from so suddenly? The boy was suffering last month. This month he is pressing fresh notes. If it is not juju, then what is it?" And just like that, a rumor was born. By the end of that week, half the village believed Obiora was involved in money rituals. The other half didn't know what to believe, but they were suspicious nonetheless. People started avoiding him in the market. When he walked past, conversations would suddenly stop. Mothers would pull their children closer when they saw him coming, as if he was carrying a curse in his black nylon bag. But the funniest thing, my people, Obiora didn't even notice. Or if he noticed, he didn't care. Every morning he would wake up, greet his neighbors with a smile, pick up his bag, and go to his mysterious walk. Every evening he would return, greet everyone again, and go inside his house. And the money kept flowing. One Saturday afternoon, things reached a new level. Obiora did something that scattered everybody's brain completely. He went to Mama Nkechi's shop and bought drinks for everyone in the area. Not 1 or 2 bottles though. He bought a full crate of malt and minerals, and he told Mama Nkechi to share it to anyone who wanted. People collected the drinks, but they were collecting it with fear and suspicion in their hearts. Baba Emeka muttered as he drank his malt, "This boy wants to use us for something." Chinedu the tailor refused to collect anything. "I don't want any spiritual problems," he announced loudly. "Let me stay with my ordinary life. Thank you." But the village children, those ones didn't care about rituals or mystery. They just knew Uncle Obiora was sharing drinks, and they flocked to him like birds to breadcrumbs. Now, Mama Obiora was not a foolish woman. She had been watching her son with increasing worry. Yes, she was happy they were no longer suffering. Yes, she enjoyed the money for soup and the new wrapper he bought for her. But she was also a mother, and a mother knows when something is not quite right. One night, after Obiora had gone to sleep, she sat outside their compound talking to her friend, Mama Adaze. "I don't know what my son is doing," she confessed quietly, "and that is what is worrying me. Every time I ask him, he just says, 'Mama, don't worry, it is honest work.' But which honest work does not have a name? Which honest work cannot be explained?" Mama Adaze, who was a prayer warrior in the village church, held her friend's hand. "Have you prayed about it?" "I have prayed tire. Morning, afternoon, evening, I have been praying, but God is not answering me. Maybe God is saying the boy is doing nothing wrong. Or maybe God is saying I should find out for myself." Mama Obiora sighed. And that night, she made a decision. The next morning, when Obiora prepared to leave for his mysterious work, Mama Obiora was ready. She had arranged with Chinedu the tailor and Baba Emeka's son, Emeka Jr., to follow him. She gave them money for transport and told them, "I want to know where my son goes every day. Follow him, but don't let him see you. Find out what he is doing and come back to report." My people, this is where the story gets sweeter than honey. Chinedu and Emeka Jr. agreed immediately. They were excited, Seth, like private investigators in an American film. They wore dark shirts and sunglasses, even though it was still early morning and the sun was not even bright. And they positioned themselves at a distance from Obiora's compound. When Obiora came out with his black nylon bag and started walking, they followed him like secret agents. They followed him through the main road. They followed him past the church. They followed him past the primary school. They followed him as he turned into a small bush path that led toward the neighboring village. "Where is he going?" Emeka Jr. whispered to Chinedu. "I don't know, but just keep following."
They walked and walked and walked. The bush path became narrower, the sun became hotter. Chinedu was already sweating like Christmas goat. After about 30 minutes of walking, they reached a clearing, and in that clearing was a building. A small building with a faded yellow paint and a zinc roof. There was no signboard, no name, nothing to indicate what the place was. Obiora walked straight to the building and went inside. Chinedu and Emeka Jr. hid behind a large tree, watching and waiting. What kind of place is this? Emeka Jr. wondered aloud. I don't know, but we have to find out. They waited for almost an hour. Then Obiora came out. And my people, what they saw made both of them gasp at the same time. Obiora's black nylon bag was full, bulging, heavy. He was carrying it with both hands now because it was so full. But that was not even the shocking part. The shocking part was that right after Obiora left, another young man arrived, then another, then a woman, then an old man, all of them going into that building with empty bags and coming out with full bags. This is definitely rituals, Emeka Jr. whispered urgently. We have to go back and report.
But Chinedu, who was a bit braver, said no, we have to find out what is inside that building. Otherwise, how will we report properly? So they waited until nobody was around, and then they quietly sneaked toward the building. They peeped through the windows, and what they saw inside made their eyes nearly jump out of their sockets. The building was filled with bags and bags and bags of pure water in sachets, thousands of them arranged in neat piles from floor to ceiling. And in the middle of the room stood a short, fat man with a big stomach and a bigger smile. He was the owner of the pure water distribution business. My people, let me explain what was happening. Obiora had gotten a job as a pure water distributor. Every morning, he would come to this building, collect bags and bags of pure water, and then he would go around the neighboring villages and towns selling them. He would sell in motor parks, in markets, in construction sites, anywhere people were thirsty and needed water. And in the evening, he would return the nylon bag, now empty because he had sold everything, and collect his money for the day. It was not rituals, it was not Yahoo, it was not fraud or stealing or any kind of crime. It was just pure water. But here is why Obiora never told anyone. He was ashamed. You see, in his mind, he was a grown man. How could he tell people he was selling pure water like a small boy? In our African society, there are some jobs that people look down on, and selling pure water, walking under the hot sun, shouting pure water in your loudest voice, dodging cars and motorcycles, that was one of those jobs.
So, Obiora had decided to keep it secret. He would do the work, make his money, and nobody would know. He thought if he just kept quiet and worked hard, eventually he would save enough money to start a better business, and then he could tell people what he had been doing. But village people and their investigation had exposed him. Chinedu and Emeka Jr. couldn't wait to return to the village. They practically ran all the way back, their hearts pounding with excitement about the news they were carrying. By the time they reached Umuaka village, the sun was beginning to set. They went straight to Mama Obiora's compound and found her sitting outside with Auntie Ngozi, Mama Nkechi, and several other concerned village people who had been waiting anxiously for their report. "We saw it!" Emeka Jr. announced dramatically, bending down and breathing heavily like someone who had run a marathon. Everyone leaned forward. "Where?" Mama Obiora asked, her voice shaking slightly. Is it something bad?" Chinedu shook his head, a smile beginning to spread across his face. "Mama, your son is selling pure water." Silence. Complete silence. You could hear a pin drop in that compound. Everyone just stared at Chinedu and Emeka Jr. like they had grown second heads. Pure water? Mama Nkechi repeated slowly, as if she was tasting the words in her mouth to see if they made sense. Yes, so, Emeka Jr. confirmed. He goes to a distribution center in the next village, collects bags of pure water, and sells them around different places. That is the work he has been doing. That is why his nylon bag is always empty when he is going and full when he is coming. Auntie Ngozi blinked. So, no rituals? No rituals. No Yahoo? No Yahoo. No nothing? Nothing, no. Just pure water business. And then, my people, something happened that nobody expected. Baba Emeka, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, suddenly burst out laughing, a deep, belly-shaking laugh that made his whole body vibrate. We have been suspecting this boy of doing blood money, and he was just trying to make an honest living selling water. This village and our rumors. Soon, others began to laugh too. The tension that had been building in the village for weeks suddenly evaporated like morning dew under the hot sun. Even Mama Obiora, who had been so worried, found herself chuckling with relief. But Mama Nkechi wasn't laughing. She was looking thoughtful. But wait, she said, if selling pure water can give him that much money to be buying drinks for people and wearing new shoes, then why are we not all selling pure water? And just like that, the conversation shifted from suspicion to admiration. When Obiora returned home that evening with his now empty nylon bag and his day's earnings, he found a small crowd waiting for him in front of his compound. His heart sank. He thought they had found out his secret and had come to mock him. But instead, Mama Obiora stood up, walked to his son and hugged him tightly. "I am proud of you," she whispered in his ear. Obiora was confused. "Mama, what is happening?" Mama said, We know what you have been doing, and there is nothing to be ashamed of." Obiora looked around at all the faces staring at him. He saw understanding where he had expected mockery. He saw respect where he had expected shame. Baba Emeka stood up and placed his hand on Obiora's shoulder. "My son, there is dignity in every honest work. You thought selling pure water was something to hide, but you are wrong. A man who wakes up every morning to work hard and feed himself and his mother, that man deserves honor, not shame." Chinedu, the tailor, nodded. "In fact, I want to apologize. We were following you today like detectives, suspecting you of doing bad things, when you are just being a responsible person. We were the foolish ones, not you." Tears gathered in Obiora's eyes, but he blinked them away quickly. "I was ashamed," he admitted quietly. "I thought people would laugh at me, a grown man selling pure water like a small boy." "And who told you that work has size? Money is money, whether it comes from selling pure water or working in an office. As long as you are not stealing or killing or doing evil, that money is honorable." Auntie Ngozi, who was one of the main people spreading the ritual rumors, came forward looking embarrassed. "Obiora, I am sorry. I was the one saying all sorts of things about you. I even told people you are doing juju. Please forgive my mouth." Obiora smiled. For the first time in weeks, it was a real, full smile without any hidden worry behind it. "It's okay, Auntie. I understand." That night, the village gathered under the big mango tree, and Obiora told them everything. He explained how he had found the distribution center, how he had convinced the owner to give him a chance, how he would wake up at 5 a.m. to collect his stock and spend the whole day moving from place to place selling water under the hot sun. He explained how his legs would ache by evening, how his voice would be hoarse from shouting, how sometimes people would insult him or ignore him completely.
"But every day," he said, "when I count my money in the evening and I see that I can give my mother something, that I can feed myself, that I'm not begging anyone, That feeling is sweeter than any shame people might want to throw at me. The village people listened in silence, and by the time he finished talking, many of them were looking at him with new eyes. Within a month, 3 other young men from Umuaka village had joined Obiora in the pure water business. Within 3 months, Obiora had saved enough money to buy his own stock directly from the factory, cutting out the middleman and increasing his profits. Within 6 months, he had enough money to rent a small shop in the market square where he could sell his pure water and other drinks. And Mama Obiora, she became the proudest mother in the village. Every chance she got, she would tell people, "My son is a hustler, a real hustler. Not the kind that is looking for shortcuts and running after blood money, the kind that wakes up every morning and works hard with his own hands."
My people, this is where the story ends. But before you get up and go about your business, let me tell you the lesson that this story carries. In this life, there is no shame in honest work, none at all. Whether you are selling pure water or frying akara or washing cars or sweeping compounds, if you are working hard and feeding yourself and your family without stealing or cheating or doing evil, then you should hold your head high.
Tell me what you learned in the comments section. See you in our next episode. Bye!